Hello, everyone. Welcome to October the 2nd of 2024. It's Weekly Manga Recap. How's everybody doing today? Oh no,
But Nick,
No.
don't you mean spook something, Toba?
I'm already so tired. I
haven't even done a single joke yet.
know. It's just the voice. It's everything.
Yeah. Well, the Spookmaster General didn't have time to. It's still early in the month, so she doesn't look good yet. She looks like shit, quite frankly. But that's just because her power gets stronger. By the way, Spookmaster General, pronoun she dead now, by the way, just to make that clear.
She/dead?
She/dead, yes. You can
Okay, gotcha.
refer to me as either she is here to scare us or dead. And you get it from there.
I like the idea of a annual holiday entity that, like, when they first show up at the beginning of the holiday period, they're like, oh shit, I'm just not ready yet, guys. So you can imagine, Santa Claus every single Christmas season, he crawls out of bed, like, oh look, Santa didn't have time to get the
look, it's December 23rd, kids. What? He ain't got all that energy.
I'll get it right in time. Don't worry. But look, I just need a bit more eggnog, and everyone chill until I'm ready. And it's like Santa.
It seems like you've had too much eggnog.
It's like, Santa, you've had 360 odd days to get ready for this. Like, we didn't catch you unawares. It happens the same time every year.
Yeah, like, come on, guys. You should have been a little prepared for this. Well, I just want to let Nick know that the Spookmaster General shall be here to insert appropriate spooky atmosphere when needed. Do you want some, like, Spookmaster lore or something?
I feel like there are just really, 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 really heavy quote marks around the word appropriate in that sentence you just spoke. And that's all I want to say about the topic.
Fair enough. All right. Well, let's start, Nick, with the the fourth spookiest recap of the year, because they each get progressively scarier. Unless, of course, again, sometimes the Spookmaster General hands her or Dead's power off to somebody else. It's less of a pronoun and more of just a kind of title. I hand my powers off to someone else. Like, I don't know, maybe a certain card duelist will show up sometime this month. You never know, Nick. That's the wackiness of the Spookmaster General. Fine.
Also wackiness of the Spookmaster General not knowing how many Wednesdays in October there are this year.
Nick, Dead just was born like 2 days ago, okay? It takes time to learn things. Like, do you immediately look forward to the end of your life, Nick? No, okay? You kind of estimate. Like, I bet I'll live probably like 70 years or something like that. Anything after that's a gift. That's the same way. I was like, 4 weeks, I'm not going to be greedy. If there was a fifth, that's incredible.
I mean, so what you're telling me is that the Spookmaster General doesn't know how to look at a calendar of October, the only month that she/Dead exists in.
Well,
okay.
Yes, because it's important to understand that the Spookmaster General is kind of birthed into existence. Each one is a new reiteration. It's kind of like Doctor Who in a way, but we only get to come back. They're different. I'm just saying it's a whole different thing. So I don't really have the memories of the last one. I don't have a context. Like, why would I have a calendar, Nick, if I only exist for 1 month?
I imagine that, like, instead of it being like a bunch of beams of light and stuff, there's just the sound of something like something hitting the floor, like, and then there they are.
Yeah. Nick, you don't own a Millennium calendar, do you?
No.
Exactly. That's why I don't own any calendars, because I'm the Spook Master General. Now, let's talk about Undead Unluck number 224, Good Luck.
Okay, let's do that.
So we open with Luna, who's like, yes, in your time, it has been 464 billion years since we started this game, and I am sure it must have felt like an eternity to all of you with your limited lives. With the looping power of Archon, you can all be yourselves. And there's grin there that's still very hard to read, because we've always kind of been under the idea that Lunar is maybe not a ally, but she is a partner of some kind in all of this.
Definitely seems to have the evolution of humanity in their interest, as opposed to Soul, who's just like, blow that shit up, torture them.
Exactly. So they're like, this is the final Ragnarok, so you don't have to worry about next time. You don't have to do any of that stuff. You just have to basically go ahead and live out this life, guys, because you're gonna die if you don't. Basically, it's all done. So
final Ragnarok, by the way, is such a Japanese shonen action thing to say. This is the final one. This is the final end of everything. The final end.
Yes.
Okay. There's no more apocalypses after this.
Yeah. So there is a brief moment where Latla is flying around on her like fucking, artifact bike, and Andy's like, "'Cause some nerd will ask about it." How did you get your bike, Latla? And they're basically like, "Oh, well, while we were stuck inside of the time jump forward, everybody outside got it," which does play off later on, so it is to set up that. But I can't imagine there'd been too many people who would have been like, why does I forgot that was an artifact. I thought she just had a bike motorcycle broom.
I did notice it definitely in The Last Shadow, because she was one of the more prominent characters in that final 2-page spread when she came flying out and on it. But I wasn't really going to ask, mostly because I was too busy reacting to, what's going on in terms of the sequence of events in general.
Okay.
But yeah, the explanation is that it's like when they jumped ahead by skipping the missions before. Everyone who was there for the Union meeting, time progressed for them, but seemingly the rest of the world went by as normal. So everyone in Nico's group, for example, was just kind of like carrying on and inventing things and gathering the artifacts that they had won. So they do at least get to claim the prizes that they got in the last batch of missions before all this happened.
Yes, so they do have those available to them. They're like, all right, this is Sun. This is the final boss. Like, we don't have, the possessions, but we're going to figure out how to do this. So, Void, Gina, you're going to tag team together. We're going to make a fucking unchanged sword that will never miss because it's unavoidable. So, yeah, this cool combo sword is created that Void is just wielding.
And also the pommel is Gina's hat.
Yes, it is very, very cool. But it is blocked. Unchanged, basically, or unavoidable is sort of like, or unchanged rather, is countered by one of these flying orbs that is surrounded, that we now see have like a Roman numeral on them. So it's like, I see what we're doing here now. Creed comes in and says, "The gun is mightier than the sword."
He's got a better catchphrase now. This is much better than the last one.
It is. Yeah. When do we undecrease the unhappiness in our heart, or whatever it was? Whatever causes or whatever decreases the sadness or the happiness in the world the least. Anyway, he's firing off a whole volley of like bullets at this guy, and it's firing them back. There's ammunition coming back from Sun, and they're like, what the fuck can match like my output, basically? And Fuko's like, no, I get this. Like, the ability to change, unchange, and the ability to surpass Creed's barrage, they're inside of Sun right now, the master rules. Basically, rather than having us fight the rules one-on-one, or, in an environment of that nature, if we had won, Sun would have been defenseless. But now we have to handle these in like a very strict deadline because Sun will just destroy the world if we don't. Otherwise, we could have handled them at our own pace to some extent.
Right.
So the big thing is that, Sun is going to destroy the world, or Soul, rather. They have like a giant attack that they're firing down. They're like, oh, so before the mission ended, sort of when Soul destroyed Ark, like that would have, like, if that had happened, Ragnarok was just done for anyway. But now it's not happening, so it's just going to blow up the Earth. It's just going to destroy everything. So it's just going to shoot a giant laser into the Earth until it reaches the core and the planet explodes. We see Luna briefly just kind of looking down on them, being like, they're very composed right now because there is, like, appropriate reactions happening. But do you think you can take him down before he destroys the core? Nico shouts out that Aegis should be deployed, which we know is one of the spiritual treasures or ancient
one of the really, really, really important ones.
Yeah. And Luna is just like, you don't have that yet.
You don't have that.
Yeah. So this laser beam is shooting, and a giant unbreakable shield comes down in front of it. And Luna's like, oh, okay, I get what you mean by
not
Aegis.
A real Aegis. It's not a real Aegis.
It's just going to get pushed forward. Like, it won't break, but it'll just push forward until that goes into the core. Like, it's not unstoppable or something like that. So that's all he needs to do is attack the shield, and you're done for. And Fuka's like, oh no, didn't I tell you that none of you know a goddamn thing about us negators? And Luna's like, huh? And Fuka's like, no.
Fuka getting ready to drop hot bars on this godly entity.
Yeah, she's like, it's because you gave me 4 months. And Billy, we hear this from Chikara. Yeah, is it Chikara?
Well, Chikara, you don't, unless there is an actual extension of the vowel sound, you don't actually emphasize any vowel. Chikara is not a bad way of saying it. You can say Chikara, it's not bad, but technically you're supposed to just kind of
Chikara. Okay.
Yeah, I'll let one go.
So if I was meeting Mr. Chikara at a store, I would say it exactly. Perfectly.
I think that out of all your options, Chikara is probably the least weird for them to hear.
Okay.
Out of anything you could put emphasis on.
Okay. So they will know that I am, I believe the term is a gaijin, Nick?
Well, I think they'll have some clues. Yes, Quinn.
Okay. So, Chikara, or as Nick said,
Chikara,
is basically okay, I had the advice that Mr. Billy gave me and the help of the lab members and the medical instructions given to them by Mr. Rip. I can do this. I am positive. You each basically take care of the 10 superior roles, and we'll prevent the destruction of the Earth, essentially. We're going to take care of stopping God. And we see Chikara is using Unmove, but with his ears. He has expanded his interpretation of his Unmove, so now things he can hear, he can stop. Because it does seem that his eyes are still damaged. They are closed shut with some kind of torn skin or something around them, it looks like.
Yeah, it seems as though there might be some sort of thing that they're working on in conjunction with each other, possibly, because he's flanked by Sean and Tella.
No,
that's not Tella.
That's Rip, I believe.
Is that Rip?
I believe so. It doesn't make sense because Tella and Rip are both two characters we later see in a one-on-one fight.
That is Rip.
A signature fight area, but
I'm still used to seeing Rip with the eye patch. But yeah, that's Rip with the boot there. But Sean's got a radar dish on his back, so I wonder if that has something to do with what Chikara is doing here, because he's got these little earbuds that he's wearing. So maybe it's something that's kind of in a way translating like it's almost like radar, maybe.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I think that's probably how it is working. Like, hey, you are inputting information into your body in the same way like you are now essentially doing kind of like echolocation to a certain extent, or
Right.
something like that. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. But yeah, Soul's like, oh, Soul doesn't say this. This is all Luna. Soul says nothing, but it's basically like, okay, they'll just target you now because you can't stop what comes from the sky. Like, you won't be able to hear it. And 2 attacks are coming, but Fuko and Annie blocked them. It is Death and Luck, the 2 kind of counters to them. So they have them kind of one-on-one there. And they're like, all right, this is our chance. We can't let this, like, pass us by. Just kind of notes, like, to a couple people, like, okay, you guys are going to be stopping Soul right now. You're going to be trying to engage with them. We're going to keep these guys from hindering Chikara. And then everyone else enter a planet and destroy God's shield. So she has this little moment where she's like, all right, it feels weird saying this, but everyone, good luck. And we see in a big two-page spread all the I say one-on-one. Many of these are multiple people against each other, but the idea of, like, everyone against master rules. It's not like 12 people. It's oftentimes 2. So, like, Billy and Tella are going against War. Gina is going against Change.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, probably the most interesting of these is that Shen is going against Time, who is one who didn't really have, like, a confirmed opposite. But it makes sense. Shen is probably one of the most significant characters in the story, so you want him and Mui to do something. And it also presents potentially an opportunity for Fang to come back and do it in some way.
Right.
But then going against Justice, or what we presume is Justice, is Yusai. So I don't think this is going to go great for Yusai. Perhaps she will just be there to take attacks until Julia comes along ready to go.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because we don't really have an idea of how strong Yusai is because we haven't seen her do a lot in this loop. So I don't know, but yeah, if you want to like put things down in terms of like plot relevance equals power scale, then yeah, she's probably fucked.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely like they're going to address injustice at some point. Yeah. And it makes sense it would be against the guy who looks like a knight is probably Justice, so it would make sense to do that.
Yeah. So and it's also Rip and Latla against Sick.
Yes.
Kind of draw that loop together, which makes sense.
Now, Nick, how do you feel about how fast do you want this to go? Because there is a world where next chapter, like 3 or 4 of these fights are already done. Like, I'm just saying, like, there is a world where they were just like, look, we really only had interest in maybe doing, like, the Gina one and then the one with the leads.
I am hopeful that we won't get, like, extended fights. But if we got, like, 1 or 2 chapters dedicated to each of these at least, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
This chapter actually did assuage my fears a little bit. That we're not just going to bull rush towards the end. I don't know if, like, because the thing is, nobody knows, like, what's going on in terms of the series, in terms of what's being published with it. Mostly because, like, unless the series is really big, usually you don't get a whole lot of time before it's announced that the series is just going to end.
Yes.
So... is this series ending in 3 weeks?
I
don't freaking know. This makes me feel like it's not.
Yeah, I have that feeling with a couple different series this week where I'm like, I assume that this is going this way because you're not ending, but I could very easily see how you do transition this into an ending at this point. Undead Unluck, I think, just always has kind of a manic pace to it. That looks like that's what Ninja just said. And yeah, I think there is just a certain part of that, but I am excited. I wanted to see many of these fights. One of my biggest issues with Undead Unluck and why I've never really like super championed it is that it very frequently doesn't actually give fights to anyone who's not Fuko and Andy. Like, you know, we've done this series now, and like the biggest one would have been the Nico fight we had. That's far and away the biggest fight that hasn't like involved them. So I'm very curious to see if we do just get to spend some time with these fights and to get to know some of these characters. I'd really appreciate that, but let's see.
Yeah, well, we will, and we will also be talking about Blue Box.
Boo blocks, Nick.
Boo blocks, all right. Chapter 166. This feeling is...
Scary.
Yes, fear. The feeling is fear.
You're all getting scared, children. It's a scare festival.
Yeah, it's the school festival continuing. We get some very pretty color pages at the start of this. First one is just a recap of what happened last time, where Saki said to Kyo, "Hey, I want you to protect me," because she's still scared that her boyfriend's going to come and harass her. Understandable fear for a woman to have in this day and age, or a lot of days and ages, come to think of it. We get a 2-page spread that's just, you know, like, hey, look at all these characters and kind of like fairy tale get-ups and stuff. And so I don't recognize all of these. So obviously we've got, you know, Cinderella with Chinatsu and Taiki. And, you know, Taiki's got the glass slipper for her. And then in the background, there's a cute thing where Hina is Red Riding Hood and Haruto is the big bad wolf. I don't really know what's going on with Ayame and Kyo. So there's like Candy. Is it Hansel and Gretel? Like, I have no idea. I literally don't know and don't recognize it. And I feel like my ignorance of Grimm is showing here.
Yeah, I'm trying to place it. Like, the roses and everything makes me think like Cinderella, or not Cinderella, Snow White maybe? But that's... Cinderella is what Chinatsu is.
Sleeping Beauty, I think, was had to do with a lot of brambles and roses and stuff.
That's it, yeah, sorry.
So I guess the idea
is... Kyo and what's her name are Hansel and Gretel. And Ayame is her own separate thing, because they're not really like a couple yet.
Ah, okay. All right.
Or there just wasn't a thematic 3-person fairy tale to make them all as...
I can't think of too many that aren't just like, you know, like the 3 bears or 3 little pigs kind of thing. And that's not the kind of dynamic you want. So I guess that makes sense. Anyway, so Taiki happens to come by Kyo and Saki. And so he's like, Kyo, I got a snack. Let's eat. And Saki, he realizes too late that he's kind of interrupting a conversation. And Saki's like, I gotta go. So Taiki immediately is like, oh, that's your childhood friend. Oh, and your first crush. So clearly, like, you know, they've known each other long enough that he just knows a lot of things about Kyo in terms of his personal life and interest in everything. But he kind of has to bring Taiki up to speed on recent events. And so he says, yeah, so apparently, like, she broke up with her boyfriend, but he's still giving her trouble. She asked me to protect her. And Taiki says, well, what are you going to do? And he says, I don't know. I guess I'd walk her home and stuff. And Taiki pulls this face. Just this, no, it's not good. It's not good that you're being pressured into that, dude. And he just straight up says, like, yeah, that's kind of like unfair of her to ask that of you. Yeah. And Kyo says, like, well, how am I supposed to turn her down when she's asking that? And Taiki says, I feel like she is asking you because she knows that you had a crush on her, or as he puts it, knows you're sweet on her, which doesn't seem like a thing Taiki should say. I mean, this boy may have too much confidence.
Yeah, I was going to say, my boy started one relationship and suddenly he's like, let me tell you how things are going, Kyo.
That girl, I think she's... I can't even do the voice. That girl knows you're sweet on her. You can't be letting her give you that kind of lip, son.
What if Taiki has gotten into one relationship and suddenly he's becoming like a men's health relationship guru podcast guy? He's just like, you know what I think your issue is there, Kyo? You're letting the big dog, you're letting it treat you like something that's not a Sigma.
Oh God.
You know, the kind of podcast Gakuru probably, like, unironically listens to once or twice. Like, not often. He's like, this is a show belittling the women.
I'll be a Sigma male.
Yeah, but every so often he's like, I'm gonna listen to this, and then I'm gonna tell my sister to shut up when she pushes me down the stairs.
Yeah. So the long and short of it is that Taiki just points out, like, I feel like she's just taking advantage of you, and she's just kind of like asking you to just go ahead with an arrangement that's convenient for her, ignorant of your feelings on the matter. And I don't think that that's fair, and you should allow yourself to, you know, have your own thoughts and feelings on the situation. You know, so, hey, Taiki, you did get more mature. Stop talking like that. But Kyo does say, like, I mean, if she's having trouble, I think I do want to help her out. And he thinks about, you know, the times when they were kids, when she would kind of be a big sister sort of figure to him, help him out when he was vulnerable and comfort him and stuff. But Taiki, you know, is, you know, thoughtfully munching his corn dog, and he says, you know, no matter what you do right now in this situation, no one's going to be mad at you. You're really considerate when it comes to your siblings, when it comes to your teammates. You put others ahead of yourself all the time, and I don't like when people take advantage of that. But I also understand you can't just ignore your childhood friend when they ask you for help. You're the kind of guy who thinks long and hard about what you'll do before you do it. The way you always act is what wins people's trust. Like, hey, good for you, Taiki. You were a good friend there. You yes. reassured a guy who was having doubts about himself. And Kyo's like, yeah, my buddy Taiki, he's good at expressing his honest feelings. And then he's like, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say he just goes back to eating a corn dog, I think.
Yeah, he's like, give me that corn dog.
Yeah, no. What was I say? It's like it is an interesting moment because we have been framed more focused in terms of, like, I guess, the romance around Kyo and Ayame's story recently. So this is a moment where you almost sit there and you forget that Taiki is, like, the protagonist in the story. Like, he is supposed to be the one getting advice. Like, I don't know, it's a very different feeling to almost feel like we're now following, like, a new face, like a new storyline. And the old one's still there to be like, hey, don't worry, everything's going great. I'll eat this corn dog now. My whole fucking face.
Just putting his all into it. Kyo, has that moment with Taiki. He coughs a little bit while he's thinking, which is a literary term known as foreshadowing. And then he thinks to himself, compared to Taiki, I might be just kind of treating things too lightly. And I never noticed it before, but everyone around me is moving at a way quicker speed than I am. He sees, like, a couple of kids who are attending the festival, and he reflects back on that same moment that he's thought about recently, where they were lost, separated from Kyo's parents while they were at the zoo, and he remembers the moment when their parents found them, and he remembers, Saki being, like, kind of, emotional when their parents arrived, and Kyo thinks to himself, I couldn't tell her how I felt while I was still relying on her for protection. And then he remembers later on the day that Saki started going out with that boy, and how he thinks nobody's going to wait for me to grow up. In the present, somebody asks him for help, doing some sort of thing at the haunted house thing. And he thinks, by the time that I had forgotten about Saki, or in terms of forgotten about her romantically, she came back again. And the story's just been unfolding without me realizing it. And he stops and thinks for a second, and he thinks, the same goes with Moria, with Ayame. I was a little afraid of her at first. She's loud. She's always, like, chasing trends around. She gets caught up in her assumptions. She spins her wheels, and then she ends up sad and alone. And I always felt it'd be better if she just, like, took a second and would think before acting. But as somebody who doesn't really express how he feels, I thought her honesty was captivating. And he remembers something that was said to him in the last chapter. You always look like you're enjoying yourself when you're with her. And he thinks to himself, that's not right. She's just that way with everyone. And I don't want to get hurt again. He doesn't want to feel the same way when Saki went out with that guy and hurt him. Having said that, he then reflects on the moment that happened several chapters ago where he happened to see when Takasako, I think is his name, confessed to Ayame. And it happened again. Like, there was again another person that he kind of liked that he hasn't really admitted to himself that he likes, but someone else confessed to them first. And he just thinks, I hate that I'm such a slowpoke.
Come
Big
on,
teenage
kids.
feelings.
Children, you're all children. Stop.
He starts coughing some more and finally admits to himself, oh, I think I must be like coming down with something. Which, yeah, he's been busy. He's overseeing like his class's school festival thing. He's the captain of the badminton club. And it's very easy when you're in that kind of position, if you're not used to having all that stress on you, to just not, like take stock of yourself. And he's just like kind of like pushes past it immediately. Like his immediate first thought is like, they could use someone to help cover the next shift. I'm just going to push through this. Like, just does not even acknowledge like I need to take a break here.
Yeah.
Someone again calls him over for help and is like, hey, this sign is falling down. Can you help me out? And so he gets up on a chair to help hold it up while they're securing it. And then once it's done, he starts to get down and he just goes, uh-oh, and slips off the chair he's standing on and falls on his ass. And they're like, hey, you okay? You okay? And he's like, yeah. Oh, wow, you've got like a fever. He's, very clearly tired and overheating. And they're like, okay, we need you to go to the nurse's office. So let's go. And Kyo's like, okay, I'll just go myself. Immediately starts to get up and like, no, stop. Because, of course he would be like that. So some people are like, what should we do? Should two of us like carry him there? What should I do? And Kyo sits down and he thinks to himself, I'm just kind of always just saying to people like, oh, I'm fine. I don't need help. I'm okay. And I just, always brush people off. I can't just be honest with people. And as they're trying to figure out what to do, a wild Sadako appears as Ayame seemingly, I don't know like how she heard about this. She knew that this boy was in trouble. She's got a little dolly cart, and she is still in her full Sadako costume, and she's just like, get out of the way, and rushing through the crowd. And she's like, get him on the dolly. I'm going to take him to the nurse's office. And Kiyomi is like, no, because he doesn't want to be pushed around on a cart by a girl dressed as Sadako through hundreds of people.
Through all of his high school peers.
And she's just like, get on the freaking dolly. No back talk. And of course, everyone's like, what is happening? Why has Sadako kidnapped him?
It's very adorable.
She's just pushing him along, and Kyo thinks to himself, she just doesn't care. She's just always doing this, and she doesn't care how I do things. And then it all just kind of like comes down on him, and he just starts laughing. And he's out of breath, and he's really quiet, and he starts saying, mumbling, whispering to himself, it seems like, Moria, I like you. And he says it like really slowly, as if he's just kind of like maybe mouthing the words. And he just admits like, I really like that about her.
It's so sweet. This chapter's so cute. I really like this. Yeah. I want good things for Kyo. Like, he does seem like he's somebody who needs like some help getting a little bit of his priorities in order. And like, maybe stop dancing around this issue that seems to be currently going on. So I hope this is like the motivation for him to, put a stop to anything going with his next door neighbor and start actively being like, hey, Ayame, like, let's start, going out or whatever. Or like, hey, let's go on a date. Like, I want him to like make a move with this. I hope, we're not going to be stuck because she agreed to date that other guy.
She didn't agree to date him.
Well, she agreed to consider it. Sorry.
She agreed to consider it, and he has been fumbling ever since.
That is true. She has not acted like he's been fumbling, though. So, I don't know. I just hope this is I know it's progression, but I hope it's somewhat fast progression, because I'm not sure if I'm interested in another 50 chapters of this relationship.
I get you. It's one of those
I put in my time in this series, Nick. Okay.
I kind of get what you're saying. It took us 100 chapters to get Chinatsu and Taiki together, and they started off with one of the two parties liking the other. We can't be having we're on a chapter 166, and one of the two parties has admitted that they like the other to themselves.
Very much so.
It doesn't have that much shelf life, probably, and I don't think we're going to have to wait that long. Because it doesn't feel like the pacing of how things have played out between them is going to allow for that much more, will they, won't they? It might take a couple more months, I would think, but I would not count on this time next year they're finally going to go out or something like that. And now y'all can mark it for when Nick is wrong. So...
All right, guys. Quinn's also going to mark it. So she can be wrong. What was that? Chapter 180 something?
So if it's this time next year, it'll be chapter 210 or something like that.
I'm going to say by chapter 200, they're together.
That probably makes sense. But I'm going to hope that it's earlier.
Free pizza?
No.
No? Okay. Come on, Nick, let's excite this podcast up. I'll give you $20. Chainsaw Man's okay.
No bet. Chainsaw Man!
Vroom! Or should I say boom? That's the sound of an engine of a chainsaw, which is already kind of spooky when you think about it.
Chapter 179. I think that's how you say that. Last chapter, the Aging Devil agreed to save Chainsaw Man if Chainsaw Man would eat him. And, murder a bunch of children in the process, because that's the terms of his current contract. Chainsaw Man has, drank his blood and stuff, manages to pull his ripcord enough to at least, get him going again, but he's still, a legless stump with just a couple of arms. He starts to drag himself towards the Aging Devil, and then the Aging Devil goes, and just watches Chainsaw Man just crawl past him and go towards the broken and fallen sign he had before of give blood from the blood drive thing. And he holds it up and goes, I don't think anyone's coming, Denji.
I don't know if that blood drive sign is actually about power anymore.
The Aging Devil goes, Are you stupid? What's going on? What are you doing?
I love how frequently demonic entities over the most primal horrific concepts to our world are just yo, is this motherfucker stupid? What's going on with this boy?
He grabs the Chainsaw Man by the head, seems about to do something, and at that moment Yoru, who is on the other side of all this rubble that she caused from her last attack, spots this and realizes hey, that devil's trying to steal my glory. Well, of course it does look that way to her. What is she gonna think, that this is how people help each other, because by going this, they're going to dunk someone's head in the water? Asa sees how badly Chainsaw Man is beat up, and she says, "Hey, you kicked his ass, Yoru. Can't you just say you beat him and stop here?" And Yoru says, "No, he's still not mine yet." And she says, "I'm going to claim Chainsaw Man as my weapon. If she becomes my weapon, then she can go back to being an ordinary human, and then both our wishes will be granted, like Famine said." And Asa says, "Do you really believe it's gonna work like that?" And Yoru claims, "Yeah, I do." But I don't know if I would believe anything that this girl says. She seems like she does things like reluctantly kill her children to give herself the power to kill her rival. So I don't know how much I believe in her.
Yes.
But as Yoru's about to fire her next attack, suddenly Asa just takes the body back, which is a really nice moment that happens here. Like, we've seen Yoru at her very strongest thus far in the series, and Asa just wrests control back in an instant. And Yoru's like, give me the body back. And I like how she says, give back my body, even though it's Asa's body.
Correct.
And she also says, stop fearing me, which is the most ironic thing she could have possibly said in this moment, for so many reasons. Yoru realizes that Asa's not going to back down, and so she says, okay, fine, I'll back off. I'll back off. And then just as Asa's like, really? And Yoru goes, well, you're afraid of me? Because that hurts. And Asa goes, oh. And then she hesitates and feels sad for Yoru for going, you're afraid of me? Boop! Back in control of the body.
It's so fucked up because I eventually was on the same point as Asa. I was like, oh, fuck. I mean, Yoru and me have been through thick and thin together. Like, I don't, like, I'm not afraid of you. Don't worry. Just in the second she gets back.
Bang! Just immediately spins around.
Like, I would have been Asa. Nick, if you need to know how certain people would have been in that situation, like, to determine, like, you're like, okay, we can't trust the world-ending powers to Quinn. She will give it up if somebody seems really sad to her.
I don't know. I feel like if the War Devil had entrusted me to do anything, I'd be like, I'm just gonna stay home, dude. I'm not going anywhere.
I'm not really about war so much anymore.
So yeah, Yoru immediately like goes back to full love and life evil devil mode too. She is so happy when she launches this attack. The Sniper of Liberty fires off another bullet across the ocean, which we now get to see in full is a massive ass finger bullet too. And it's fired directly at the aging devil, who has seemingly all the time in the world to turn and look at it. I guess it just freezes in place when it arrives in front of them. And the aging devil goes, War Devil. Huh. This attack was aimed at me. I can't believe she thinks she can kill me with this. Touches a hand to the finger bullet and declares, neither Chainsaw Man nor War Devil are mature enough to talk to me. Time to have them grow up. And the finger bullet disintegrates against their hand. And that's the end of the chapter.
I truly, like, Chainsaw Man is such a difficult series for me to read. I can't tell if we're ending in, like, 60 chapters or, like, 3 chapters. Like, I don't know if this is, like, you know, like the Falling Devil, like, this is just one small piece of, like, a larger puzzle, or if they're just like, nah, Aging Devil's where shit's gonna get real. I'm gonna kill at least one of you guys.
I really like how we got to this point, though. If like, hey, what do you do in a wrestling match if two people are having a match and they hate each other and they want to fight in order to get them to stop fighting? You have someone from outside the match interfere and, for whatever reason, piss off both competitors who fight against them and realize, like, oh, we need to fight this guy first.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting to see, because through whatever means of circumstances, there is one person who is pissed off against both of them, and both of them have a reason to want to protect the other from this thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, if it's resolved in 1 chapter or 10 chapters.
Yes.
And this is a character, by the way, that we didn't know freaking existed until this attack happened on Denji.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, is in this situation because he found out Nayuta's dead. Like, that has basically nothing to do with any of the 3 characters currently in conflict except for Denji.
And that this is all part of the plan of the government. Like, this is all their intention. So there are probably more things going on behind the scenes that we don't realize.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of crazy things. Very exciting. But we have to talk about kaiju.
All right. So, Kaiju number 8, chapter 115. Last time things got really scary because the ancient kaiju that has been dwelling within the body of Kaiju number 9 revealed itself and immediately started wrecking house, launched an attack that seemed like it was going to cut the hell in half out of Ashiro. And everyone just kind of like briefly goes, "This is bad. This is really bad.
This sucks. Oh, this is real bad."
There is a nice quick visual as like the essence of number 9 is basically sinking into the amalgam that Mina saw while she was inside of number 9's body. And as he kind of disappears into the mass of flesh, he says, "Didn't I tell you, Mina Ashiro? No one has ever escaped, no matter the era, no matter how strong, not even me, and certainly none of you from the defense." Why doesn't she look scared?
Hey, what's going on?
And Mina's just staring determinedly back at this scary-ass kaiju and thinks to herself, it's always this way. There's one person who always helps me make up for my many flaws, who always clears the way to make it easier for me to operate. And when I hit a wall that I couldn't possibly bust down by myself, they're always there to blaze a trail for me, the ultimate adjutant. And we get all these flashes of Mina's time together with Hoshina, not just like combat stuff, but like how they work on paperwork together, how he has been such an accomplished person this whole time, and he comes up from behind this new kaiju with both blades drawn, using his sword slay technique, and just starts cutting with an 8-fold slasher. And everyone's like, "Oh shit! Ocean is there!" Understandably, amidst all of the chaos of, number 8's dying and this new kaiju appeared, yeah, maybe someone like wasn't paying attention to the other people that were on their way there. Immediately, Hoshin is in danger because this new kaiju is back up, is launching attacks. Mina does some covering fire with her pistol to at least deflect the attack for now. Hoshina declares to number 10, this is stronger than anything we have ever fought. We have to go all out immediately from the get-go. And of course, number 10 is like, "Fool! As if we would go any other way at it!" And cool shot of all of his blades being deployed so that by Okanogi, so that he has weapons to fight again. More slashers happen, but the kaiju is just flicking fingers and immediately deflecting attacks. And Hoshina realizes, wait, was that a shield? Oh no, that was something else. And there's just this trail of body parts, body mass, let's call it, coming out of Kaiju number 9's body like a tail, which swings down insanely quickly, crushing all the landscape in its wake. And then Ashura says, hey, look, this is bad. And he says, I'll take care of this guy. You tend to Kafka. And Ashura says, you can't beat this guy on your own. But Hoshina says, hey, well, I just need you to authorize one more person to join the fray. And
Again, Nagumi is gonna get out.
Narumi shows up. He's the big hero.
It's very funny because we've just been in this long gigantic arc of everybody fighting, and we're still we're doing a couple extra little teases. There's still a little couple extra things to do, but they're all for people who have already hard fought battles at this point. So you're always kind of yay, it's Gen. He's tired. And I don't know what he's going to see when he looks at this guy, because it is conceptually many kaiju. I don't quite understand.
With his special eyes.
His special little eyes. Fine chapter. I'm glad that Ashino isn't dead.
I do like that for this big hero moment for Hoshina showing up, that we established like this is why he had to be the one to do it. It's because he
Yes.
also has this bond with Ashura that we really, in the main series of Kaiju No Braid, have not gotten to see a whole lot of. Not really since that first arc that focused on him, that demonstrated how strong he was when he could easily stand toe to toe with Kafka while he was transformed. But yeah, it's nice that we are not going to have to go through the rest of Kaiju No Braid without Mina, now that we've gotten used to liking her, basically.
Exactly, yes.
Let's talk a little bit about Spy Family. There's a bonus chapter this week, short mission 14. Becky comes over. She wants to hang out with Anya. She just bursts through the front door, says, "You want to go see a movie?" Anya's like, "Sure, let's go see Gobi-Zilla versus King Chihuahua," which is a great series of puns. And Becky says, "We're not watching some kiddie movie. It's going to be a love story." "You're 6, honey. What kiddies are you talking about?" And so, yeah, she's like, yeah, she's even got a poster for the movie that they're going to see. And Becky even invites Yor to go with them. So it's Becky and Anya and Yor and Martha. The majority of the important female characters, essentially, going to see this movie together. There's just nice little touches here and there from Anya, like how she is going straight for the popcorn before they're even in the theater. Good on you, kid.
She's really here for the snacks. Ultimately, that's her in on this whole day.
This movie is great because it's so cheesy. It's the romance is between like a proper lady and a bad boy with a pompadour. And he declares, "I'm a broken razor, baby. Don't get too close to me." I love that line. It's so stupid.
So cool.
And then during the big climax, he says, "You mean more to me than anything. This pop door gets between us when we kiss, and I'm losing it." And he washes the product out of his hair so it doesn't get in the way when they kiss.
I love it. He's like, "Now nothing can get in the way of our love."
And it cuts to the 4 ladies in the audience as they're watching it. Yor is, of course, flustered because, oh my god, kissing.
I thought this was a PG movie.
Martha just deadpan, just completely no-selling it. Becky, a mess, stifling. She's got a handkerchief. Anya's asleep. Of course, she's asleep.
This is a great, because, like, fucking Martha's like, "Bitch, I was in, like, a truly heart-sweeping romance. Like, this shit's nothing to me." But the other two, like, yeah, they have their different reactions to it, you know? I love this. This is such a great way to show how diverse this cast is.
Oh, yeah. They come out of the movie afterwards, and they're like, "Oh, this movie was so good." And I was like, "Yeah, the popcorn was salted perfectly." My girl's got her priorities in order. She knows what she likes.
She loves that popcorn being salted. Nick, Ninja did pose a great idea. Tag yourself. Which one are you during that movie? You're Martha. I don't know why we're asking this question.
I am so Martha.
Which one am I, Nick?
I don't know how you react to cheesy romance
I'm
movies.
Becky, Nick. Come on.
Okay.
I love cheesy romance. I cried watching, what was the Sydney Sweeney one? Anyone But You? I don't know. The one that had Natasha Bedingfield song in it.
Who are these people?
Oh my god, Nick! Feel the rain on your skin! No one else is gonna feel it for you! Only you can let it in!
Today is where your world begins.
That's the movie that made that song famous 20 years after it came out.
Anyway, so Yor looks at Martha and says, "When you kiss someone, is it normal to do it that many times?" And I do love Martha's reaction isn't like, "Aren't you married?" It's, "I'm not really an expert on love," which is like, she never wound up with anyone.
Yeah, that's sad. Like, it almost is this moment where, like, the two of them almost want to be like, "Wait, you don't really? Oh, this is perfect. I have a friend now." Like, I want them to be like, "Why don't we start having lunch on Sundays?"
Martha, like, kind of was in a lot of ways like Yor when she was younger.
Sure.
So anyway, Becky is like, yeah, I guess you're still too young for kissing, Anya. And Anya's like, oh, I learned a lot from the movie. Keep your hands off of my woman. And so she just was only up for the fighting parts with the gangster guy. And Becky's like, well, no, Anya, no. Damien's supposed to do that for you. And Anya's like, nah, I like being the protector more than being protected. And good for you, Anya.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a very nice little thing, and I like Becky's conclusion of like, I can't have girly talk with anyone. None of you can relate to me.
It's very funny. She's like, I'm surrounded by 3 women, and all of you are busted in different ways. Like, none of you just have like a normal fucking relationship to romance.
Oh boy,
good
all right,
stuff. Now. This is where we start the new series, or the newer series to Weekly Manga Recap, who haven't found a permanent place in the lineup yet.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to start with Astro Royale, which is in chapter 23. So this is a Kinpa flashback for the most part. The first part of it is when she's a little kid, sees that her mom is like falling asleep at her desk, goes and gets a blanket and puts it on her mom. And that's sweet. But in doing so, she wakes her mom up and she's like, I know you have big dreams, but just take care of yourself, okay? And her mom says in response, my life is a battle, which Kimpa, you need to supply the context of how this line originates. You don't. You need to, like, there needs to be, that's an inside joke by the time we start seeing it here, and it's never explained. Anyway, Kinpa says, we were sent to live here when I was 8 years old. My parents were scientists, and so I lived here for a little while. That's why I know my way around. She says, my mom was in charge and dad was her assistant. And she remembers briefly a little conversation that, she had with her dad where he says, like, yeah, her research really, really tires her out. But if we can do it, she'll create an endless source of energy. The daybreak ore is the dream of humanity. Energy fueled by the power of wishes. This has nothing to do with the meteor, as far as we know.
Sure. I've accepted that this series was going to delve into some supernatural shit to some degree. I don't know exactly how I feel about wishes. There's like a certain like fairy tale-ness or like childishness to this that like I'm trying to like parse at this point, like the idea of like all of our wishes and stuff like that. So I'm still trying to work my way through some of those feelings.
Kinpa asks Rary to use her missile, which replays events, to go back 9 years to October 10th, 2017. A little weird. And she says that day is the reason why I wished on the asteroid to disappear. So Rary does use her retrograde missile. We open up on a scene where Kinpa is talking with her biological father, and it's a birthday for Kinpa, and she's just like, "Where's mom?" And she says, "Oh yeah, she kind of like ran into trouble with research." And so Kimpa's like, "Well, she promised she'd be here." And she's like, "Yeah, sorry, she's got responsibility. She's in charge here." Kinpa says, "Scientists shouldn't make so many promises, Okay.
I think what's very, very funny is the dad's like, ha ha ha, you got me there. And as Tarasu was watching this, he goes, your dad doesn't seem too dependable. Like, fuck off. He's dead, dickhead.
There are so many strange comments that everyone makes about everyone else in this series.
In my mind, I'm like, I think he is just trying to be like, oh yeah, like in the same way you'd be like, oh, that your person was very funny. Like the notion that her dad had like kind of a flaky aura to him is like something notable. It's just very interesting. Like, she doesn't deny it. She's like, yep, and he was a great cook too. You're like, wait, so your dad was just like an undependable douchebag? Like, I don't. Girl.
And he was the head scientist of this facility's assistant, as in the person who looks after the boss to make sure that they stay on top of things.
I mean, do you really is it that dependable? Come on.
So God. So this is so weird. So her dad gives her a compact and says, "Will this make you forgive me?" And she's like, "This is mom's." Yeah, you've been wanting it. Your mom's favorite compact. You might be a bit young for it though. And she's like, "Don't treat me like a kid." Okay. So her dad says, "I gave it to your mom as a present. She used to really put a lot of effort into her appearance." And Kimpa says, "But her hair is always messy and her glasses are dirty." And he says, "Ah ha ha, she always has sleep in her eyes and she lives in her slippers." And they both point at each other and go, "And she says it's because her life is a battle." Ah ha 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 ha. What is happening?
There is like an attempt to be human here. And I'm like, this sounds miserable. It sounds like this family doesn't really like each other that much. Like, it really feels like the punchline is like, "Ugh, I have to go back home to my wife." Like, in like a very old style of like joke. She's like, "Ugh, my family is hell." It's very curious. It's very strange.
There is a phrase that has entered my vernacular as a result of certain technological trends that are going on right now, which is, "This feels like it was written by AI," which is not a thing I like thinking to myself, but sometimes it does. It feels like if you read this chapter without dialogue, it reads better because some of the dialogues don't seem to match the flow of sentence to sentence in terms of what is happening. It's just that there's awareness of how the story beat should flow, but the dialogue isn't closely tied and flowing naturally when it happens.
Sure.
So it's like there should be a moment where the father and daughter are talking about her mom, and they talk about her in a way that from the outside seems disparaging, but is actually loving, and they take humor in it. But it's like, okay, but why are they saying the things that they're saying?
Like, I don't know what it is, because there is just a confusion to it. Like, even the notion that she's like this is maybe one of those series where you're like, oh, maybe things were written a bit backwards. Like, I think Kimpa might have been written to have a compact powder that is her Astro, and then they were like, oh, why did she want to turn invisible? Something with her mom, girl, makeup, it'll work. But it is one of these things that you're like, why are you giving your 6-year-old your current wife's favorite compact device as a birthday gift? Like, she can't wear it. Your wife still can.
Does her mom not want to use it anymore?
Is this like her gift to Kimpa? Is like, hey, I know you've always wanted yours. Your father. It would make much more sense for her to be the one giving this gift.
Like, I don't think that this is the case, but it can be read as, especially because they kind of talk shit on Kimpa's mom here. It can kind of read as her dad saying, "Yeah, my wife doesn't care about her appearance, so you might as well use it instead."
I'm not trying to read cynically like that. I don't think that's where it's going for. I do think this is just supposed to be like, oh, her mom's really busy, the dad's doing this, is how we had to get there. There are just questions you might ask as you're reading it where you're just like, it's not a flawless way to explain why her wish, because like it wasn't that long ago. Like, has she just always kept her mom's compact on her?
I guess. Which, I mean, I do kind of understand that, given what happens here. Sure. But anyway, so a boom goes off. Actually, before we proceed to that, after that scene where they laugh awkwardly about how her mom doesn't care about her appearance, Hibaru goes, "You're just like your mom, Kinpa." And Kinpa goes, "How?" Like, literally. And I have to go, it's like, that has to be a joke. Like, that has to be a joke. Like, that Hibaru is just missing the point of what's going on here. I think
it's that she's like, we just insulted my mom. And Hibaru's just like, you kind of also, I guess, have dirty glasses and your hair's messy or something like that to Kimpa, I guess. Like, he's just an idiot. The boy's got no fucking consideration. I mean, shame on her for retelling the story and being like, oh, and here's the part I guess she didn't have a choice in this. It's just a fucking missile going off, but it's like, here's the part where we dunk on my mom for a couple seconds.
Yeah. It just turns to Rary and is like, fast forward a bit.
Yeah, her mom, by the way, who we see on like the next page, looks perfectly beautiful. Looks just as gorgeous. So I'm really like, all right, maybe your standards are too high.
With her hair up and glasses on, she looks more traditionally drop-dead gorgeous than Himari does in Hima-Ten when she's in this appearance. Like, come on. So, Kimpa's mother bursts into the room where they're hanging out and is like, we gotta get out of here, let's go, come on, hurry. And she's like,
have you seen my compact? I really need to touch up my blush right now.
Oh, I gave it to Kimpa as a gift. What? Why did you do that?
What the fuck? I'm still using it.
I was using that!
That's my favorite compact, that son of a bitch! I'm gonna shoot him with a gun right now! I hope someone doesn't beat me to it!
So she just ducks into an empty room with Kimpa, is like, come on, hurry, and she hides her in a cabinet, and is like, don't move, don't make a sound, and closes the door. And of course, who should come in but it's the government guy, Himuro, but it's 9 years ago, so he doesn't have facial hair and stuff. And he says, you can't take the Daybreak Ore without permission. It belongs to the government. And her mom says, I don't have the Daybreak Ore. It could be, I won't let you have it. It could be turned into a nuclear weapon. Okay.
Cool.
So, he insults her as being, quote, nothing but a scholar. Yes, that's why you hired her. Anyway, so seemingly Kimpa's dad doesn't know what's really going on. He asks him to explain. Finally, Hibaru recognizes who Himura is when Kimpa's dad says his name and is like, oh my god, that's the leader of Unit 6. He arrested Tora, which the name Himuro had not actually been brought up to this point when they talked about Terrazzo. It was always Unit 6 when Hibaru brought it up, and he was the only guy there when Terrazzo got taken. Anyway, so they're like, wait, that guy is who we're dealing with? What the hell? Kimpa's mother says they tricked us. The story about using the power of wishes as an energy source was a lie. And Himuro goes, I hate amateurs. And Kimpa immediately shouts to the image of her dad to run, as he just gets straight up shot in the head, really graphically too. Ichibo, her dad, falls dead. Her mother screams his name, and Himura is like, it's all because the scholars they hired had to butt in with their integrity.
Is this
that Yotsurugi family? I don't care if they discovered the Daybreak Ore or whatever.
What is this family? They're the leading pioneers of scientific discoveries using their offshore drilling and oil refinery platform. You're like, what? How rich are you guys?
Himura just talking to himself. He's like, the filthy yakuza acting like they're respectable while dragging amateurs into this mess. This is a government project. Kimpa's mother cradles her husband's body, and then Himuro turns the gun on her and just says, we're taking over your research from here on out. And there is a shot of Kimpa in the past doing the same thing that Kimpa in the present is doing, covering her mouth to avoid screaming while she's crying, watching her parents be killed, which is pretty effective. And then Kimpa in the present screams out for her mother and rushes towards the image of her parents' bodies after she is shot, tries to grab them, but of course it's just a memory and it fades around her. And the final image is actually pretty cool looking. It's like the mists of the flashback are fading around them, framing Hibaru comfortably putting a hand on Kimpa's back. So it does look cool at the end here. And like I say, I feel like this chapter is better if you just make up your own dialogue in some places. It's just kind of unfortunate that this feels like it's supposed to be a really big emotional chapter to get you invested in a major supporting character here, and it doesn't come together because of some of the choices that are made and the details of the story that bring me out of it. Ugh.
Some of the parts of this chapter I think are really, really well done. I think this like final like group shot where it's like kind of faded in and out, like split between like seeing the, you know, the, I don't know what the fuck you call it, astral projection, missile vision, whatever that is.
The astro projection.
The flashback. You see part of the flashback and part of the, you know, the current. You get to see like, I don't know, it's spread throughout. It's like, you know, well drawn, dramatic, hits the emotional moment of the scene very well. I do agree with you. I think some of this dialogue could have been better, but for the most part, I'm honestly a little surprised Kimpa's getting anything. So
sure.
I'm grateful for that, and I appreciate that. So best chapter of Astro Royale in a while for me.
It's just frustrating to me because it rises to the level of passable, but I can see the makings of something that could have been like a series-defining moment here.
Sure.
That could have been really good, and it doesn't nearly reach that level.
Very fair.
Anyway, let's talk about the newest series in Shonen Jump, Hakutaku. We very, very quickly talked about the first chapter last time. This is a series about video game development.
Beep, boop, beep,
two
boop.
kids getting into it. Beep, boop, beep, boop. Hakutaku, beep, boop, beep, boop. That's what we're going to call it.
Yeah.
Chapter 2, continue. Hikima and Noto made a game based off of their teacher that is a big hit with the class because, quote, the difficulty of the game was calibrated just right to make it unforgiving, so the entire class is riveted, which is an interesting detail to press the point on from the beginning of this chapter.
Yeah.
So everyone immediately is like, oh my god, Hikima, did you do this and stuff? A few people are like, wow, were you like quietly analyzing us for content basically this whole time? That's kind of messed up, isn't it? And Hikima starts to be like, I didn't do, I guess I kind of did do that.
Yeah, actually, I guess you got me on that one. I did think about it, and I have been doing that a little bit.
Noto kind of reacts like, why are you feeling self-conscious? Basically, she's like, come on, like a lot of these guys were bullying you. Don't bother with them. And she says, who cares? Come on, Hikima, let's go. I told you I would explain myself, why I was helping you out, so let's go do that. And she also says, look, they enjoyed something you made, and now these guys are all frozen up because they don't know what the hell they just experienced, so who cares? You'll never have to deal with them again anyway. And so Hikima goes, no, wait, but they're my classmates, so I will. What are you talking about, Noto? Which is a very weird thing. Like, it took me a second while she was giving the speech to be like, why is she saying that? And now Hikima just essentially says, like, what? We're not leaving or going anywhere. It's just a joke. So, okay. He says, thanks everyone for enjoying my game. I'm really happy that you guys enjoyed it. And he and Noto just kind of leave because, you know, they are tired and they turned in their project. So they're going to go rest. So they leave. Hikima is like concerned that like about what they did. And before they leave, Hirata, who is a classmate of his, I don't even know if this guy was in the previous chapter. I don't remember anything he did if he was. But he kind of like shouts to them as they're like out in the courtyard. He's like, look, you made a really, really fun game. If you make another one, I'm going to look forward to playing it. Okay. And Hikima's like, oh, someone is touched. And that touches me by this.
Yes.
He and Noto leave. They go to a liquor store owned by Noto's family. And so she shows up and immediately takes Hikima into her room. It's established that she has repeated the same grade like twice because presumably she's just always staying at home and designing games instead of going to class. Hikima has a bit of a freak out over like being in Noto's room, but it's not just I'm in a girl's room. It's
oh my god, you have so much garbage in here.
his freak out is like, what is going on? Am I even allowed to be in here? And he does have the motive like, oh my god, why am I in a stranger's room, a girl's room? But he's also like, there's so much garbage. Also, she's repeated a grade twice. Also, what's going on here? And so it's, yeah. Noto loads up a game that she has made and tells Hikama to play it. Time skip ahead, he's like gotten through the third stage, and so he just kind of goes around it for a bit and notices, yeah, it's boring, isn't it? And he goes, no! So she says, okay, here's another question. Do you think our classmates would be excited to play that game? And he says, well, I don't know. I mean, I was like, it's an interesting concept, but like the actual gameplay is kind of flat. I mean, I like the way it's like designed and packaged, but it's not really engaging to play.
Yeah.
And so Noto says, well, I pretty much agree with you. And that's why I helped you with the project that we were working on. I just wanted to make a fun game. And she points around the room and says, like, look, I love games. I have translated Western games myself so that I could play them. She's a big old nerd. And she says, and hey, this used to be actually a penny arcade way back in the day. And it was my dad's hobby, so I got to play stuff all the time. But then eventually one day I saw this video, and there was this game designer announcing a new release, and all these people were really, really, really excited over it, and I was excited.
Wait,
and
Nick,
I realized
they're coming out with the Tideo 2?
Oh my god, Tideo 2. Just, I hope that they don't have, oh man, if I do a single reference, it's going to be, well, you know what? It won't be dated. Oh man, Tideo 2. I hope nobody freaks out over there being a female protagonist in this one. Why did I think that would be a dated reference to make?
Unfortunately, extremely topical, yeah. Tideo 2, everyone's like, ugh, why did they have to make it a fucking mannish girl this time? Why couldn't it have been a fucking bikini girl? That's, to my knowledge, what the main gaming arguments on Twitter nowadays are. Or X, I guess they call it, if you're a loser.
They can't have a girl be a cowboy, detective, police person, samurai, god, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, Noto says that when she watched the video with all those people that were being excited for the announcement, she realizes like that designer made tons of people happy all on his own. Asterisk. So then she got obsessed with just making games, and she says, yeah, I helped her out around the shop so that I could get the money to buy this equipment. And so I made my own games. I put them on display. I would play stuff over and over again and do research. And I kept on doing that for 6 years. But only after I had spent all that time doing that did I realize I'm not capable of making my games fun. I've tried like copying other people's formulas, but I just don't know. Like, I don't know what to do to make things fun for other people. And I figured I should just look for someone who could do that. I can put stuff together in an interesting package. I can apply concepts. I can make things easy to understand, but I can't make the game itself. I've just got the chops to market and deliver it. In order to reach the place I want to see, I need someone down with me. So that's why I kind of like force this on you. That's been my ulterior motive. This has been a sales pitch of myself to you, basically. So she says all that, and she says, you make the games, I'll get them out into the world, and we'll keep going until we make a hit that gets the whole world riled up. What do you say? Want to make games with me? And that's where we end the chapter.
I think I'm kind of in the same place you are, where I think there is an interest in this series conceptually. Like, I think I could be entertained at the idea of like game design, but this series just isn't doing it. This isn't feeling particularly fun. I'm not getting like the real world inspiration maybe I need. Like even Titio, I was like, I don't even know what this is fucking supposed to be like a reference to. Like, it's evocative of nothing. It's just evocative of like games conferences, which honestly I'm a bit jaded by at this point. I don't think they're actually that cool. And I don't know if I'm like, super invested in this, crossover or whatever. Like I don't like these two. They don't have that chemistry or anything that makes me be like, I can't see what they, wait to see what they're going to do next.
There is a cruel irony that this series is about two characters who, in different regards, are not able to understand what gets other people interested in things. And then they're in a series that can't really relate what is interesting about what they're into to the audience. That's just so depressing in a way.
You're not wrong.
I don't. We got one more chapter before we make a decision on this. We'll see. Hima-Ten. Chapter number 12, Heart Racing Kana. So Kana, the model that we met last time, has now met up and knows that Iomori is Imari's housekeeper. We just know that. She just knows that now. And she's immediately just like, oh, wow, that's cool. And she even says, that's cool of both of you, which, Yoshino's like, why are you including me in that? And she's like, oh, it's just really bold that you like actually hired a classmate to clean your place. Interesting mindset to have. But Himari's like, yeah, I guess it is kind of cool. Huh? So whatever, take the compliment. Go ahead. So Himari is on her way to meet up with them now. So everything's out in the open, and Iomori's like, well, I'm glad that it worked out okay. That, someone who's found out about us, who's kind of in our peer group here. Yeah, so, kind of like, well, like, it does look like we did get to meet again. It's kind of cute. It's like they said they kind of parted on that. Well, maybe I'll see you around. And it's like, oh, we did get to hang out some more. It's kind of nice. But she also points out, like, man, it's kind of amazing that you just like hang out all alone with Himari here. Like, you're a high school boy, doesn't it? Like, kind of make your heart race to be in that situation. And Iomori's like, well, I was like nervous at first, but it's like, I'm just doing my job. There's not like there's anything going on between us. Generally.
Yeah. Come on, my guy.
But Kana says, like, I mean, that sounds suspicious, but like, I know what kind of guy you are. Like, I've gotten to see, that good side of you, and I do see why she trusts you. And there is also a nice little detail that, like, she's already gotten her backpack back, and everything's worked out with her and stuff. And it's nice that they have that. Like, Iomori is continuing to show interest in her situation. It's nice. And he brings her suitcase in and stuff. He's like, I'm working. This is like part of my job right now, so I'll just do this for you and everything. And so kind of like watches him for a little bit as he does nice host things for her. He brings her suitcase inside, wipes it down, gets her a drink, and she thinks to herself, like, so like Himari like just kind of has this guy doing this for her alone, like all the time. It's kind of like she has a husband, and she gets a little bit. She gets very doki doki in this moment where this is happening. Iomori is like completely ignorant of it for a bit, and then he says like, "Oh yeah, and by the way, dinner's almost ready." And Kana's like, "He's making her dinner. What the hell? This is so intimate."
Yeah, it's very adorable because there's a moment where we know how Iomori and Hina deal with it at this point. They're relatively professional, but a little bit sometimes like teenage nervousness comes in. It's very funny just seeing somebody else who knows, because they immediately do go to the most, like, I don't want to say immature, but like what a kid, like what a younger person would think of in that moment, which is like, oh, it's like having like a husband there. I'm like, they might not even talk most days, to be honest. He might just be like, hey, dinner's ready. I'm about to head out or whatever.
Yeah. The most detail we saw in their time together was that Iomori showed up and Himari worked in her room for several hours while he worked on the rest of the house.
Yeah.
So but yeah, it is, especially because like Kana is distinctly noted as like she's a year younger than them, so it's like so she has a slightly more immature outlook on it. So like Yamori goes into the kitchen because he's gonna make dinner for them, and kind of follows him, and they keep on talking there. And so there's a very weird moment where her boobs talk out of nowhere. I just don't. Usually when it happens, it's like there's a reason for it, and this time it's just kind of like
so.
It
yeah,
just happens.
I do have to note. Obviously, there's going to be some people who are just not going to be super comfortable with the fact that there's a character here who's like one of the most significant character traits about her is has a large chest, which isn't great. Generally, I don't mind it. Like, this character seems like she's generally being drawn and given respect most of the time. But there is one panel that does seem to just, like, focus on her breasts. I think it's supposed to be her heartbeat. But it's...
Her heart does go... Her heart does literally go doki doki.
Yeah,
yes.
It's just... From that framing, it's like, okay, I mean, come on.
There is a moment where Kana asks Iemori, like, hey, so have you just, like, always liked doing housework, and that's why you became a house cleaner? And Iemori says, like, well, my dad used to do the chores. He had to go away for work, so I ended up doing them, and they just kind of turned into a job. And so Kana connects with that. And she's like, oh, you used all the assets you had, which is a thing that she said in the last chapter in regards to, you know, yes, I am taking jobs that involve me wearing not a lot of clothes because I have a marketable appearance. But yes. She then says in this moment, I didn't originally want to do pinups either, so I think I get it. She has since said, I am proud of what I do. Yeah. So if she's like, I want to do this and I'm proud of what I do, okay.
Yeah, hell yeah.
There is a moment here where it's like, oh, I originally didn't want to like wear very little clothing and for photographers and stuff that makes me go, ah.
No, yeah. If that was the case, this would be awful. But no, if she's somebody who's like, I recognize what I have and I want to like, I'm proud of it and I'm happy to show it off. By all means, that's your body. That positivity, I think, is good for you to have. There's other stuff, unfortunately, that does have to go into it, but we're not going to get into that.
Agencies are weird. So I do like this connection that they share of like, we didn't really like set off going on these career paths that we are on in our young lives, but we're here now and we're kind of like both proud of what we do. And I do like that connection they share. And Iemori is like, hey, I want you to do well, by the way. I'm wishing you the best of luck. And kind of is like, oh, that's nice. Did you like my picture that much? And he's like, just not what I meant. But I liked it. And kind of like, haha, I knew it. My assets are unbeatable. And she... Okay. I have mixed feelings about this. So... I'm just too old to read this stuff anymore, Quinn. I'm 35. Oh
no. I had that exact moment. I was like, this is a page from like, I'm a 35-year-old reading a comic that's meant for like 12-year-olds or whatever. Like, yeah, you know what? We put up with worse, but it definitely, you do get to a point where you're just like, you start almost feeling like the parent to this child to a certain extent. Where you're just like, come on, lady, you just met this kid.
Now, like, the act itself and the way that it's portrayed, it's not that gratuitous in the slightest. Like, it's just that there is this child talking about her boobs and how proud she is of them that makes me go, But, you know, the way it's drawn, it's like, it's playful while not actually being titillating, really. She just kind of slips her jacket off her shoulders and she's wearing a full t-shirt under it, and she just makes the same pose that she made in the gravure photo to tease Iemori. And it's like, I can see a lot of like sexually confident people teasing the person that they're with by doing that. That's not the most salacious thing in the world. It's literally the language is a big thing.
My
Stop
assets
talking about your assets.
Yeah, I'm like, that's what a stripper says, okay? Or, you know, like a sex worker to some extent. Like, come on. Where did you learn these terms, Missy? What are they teaching you on Mickey Mouse Playhouse these days? Minnie he's like, oh, my assets are unbeatable.
Himari happens to come in at that moment, and there is a moment where, like, kind of like very quickly, like, puts her jacket back on, and Himari's like, what were you two doing? Which, it's one of those things where it feels like if Kana had just, like, kept the jacket slipped off, she's wearing a full shirt under it, but because she acted guilty, she reacted. And I do also like Himari's comment of, like, this is my house!
Yeah, I love that she's like, I'm not really necessarily annoyed you two are hooking up, but just like, this is my house. Right? Like, this is a weird thing for you guys to be doing anything kind of weird in.
Kana digs into the curry, and she goes, it's so good! And Iemori thinks to himself, that looked a little lewd. I've read Food Wars. Calm down. It's fine.
This sweet, precious baby boy saw one woman go like, and he was like, no, sir, ma'am, I won't. Tis shit not proper for me to be here, tis not. I shall mosey on over to that room to let you ladies eat in silence. I'm like...
Just goes to the other room. He just hears them, like, with every single mouthful, they're moaning over it. And he's like, oh my god.
He's putting on earbuds. He's like, it wouldn't be proper for me to hear that they're enjoying food either.
Kana says, like, I can't believe you get to eat, food like this, like, every week, Himari, but you have my respect. Which I do love. That it's like, hey, game respects game. You get to enjoy the benefits of being successful. Good for you.
Yeah, this rules.
So she's like, yeah, I'm kind of like just jealous of the level of success you have, that you like get to just have this cute boy come over and cook for you. And she straight up just looks at Yamori and is like, look, I'm a new talent. Once I'm popular and successful, though, I want to celebrate with a meal that you made for me, which is, it's cute. Like, that's nice. And also, like, Kana is very clearly also much more open about it. Like, she's kind of crushing on Iemori. Oh, yeah. And, like, it's not something that's, like, super pushed in your face. It's also something you can kind of not have at the forefront of your mind with every interaction she has with him. So it's like, it's just kind of like an aspect of her, which is nice. Sure. Himari says something very encouraging to Kana. It's like, I believe that you're gonna do it. Your pictures are cute, and I know you can do it. Iemori goes home for the night, and Kana is staying over at Himari's place. I guess she doesn't have a guest room because the two of them are just going to just sleep in Himari's bed together.
Sure. Well, it makes sense if she just got this apartment for herself, like her parents aren't here, then why would she have a guest room?
So they settle in for the night, and as they're like, they're doing so, Kana says, hey, so when Iemori is like over here and you're around him, does your heart ever race around him? And she's like, excuse me? It's so offended by it. But Kana's like, because you guys are like alone together when he's here. And Himari hesitates for a second. She's like, sometimes. And she admits, I think that might be why sometimes I like reject him like a bit more firmly than I mean to. Makes sense. She has to very firmly establish boundaries around him, and sometimes can come off a little bit rough because of that. And so Himari's like, all right, why'd you ask me that? And kind of says like, oh, I'm a hardcore fan of his. So it's like, yeah, girl knows what she likes. Good for her. This sort of feels like it may have been an establishing chapter for Kana even more so than her introductory chapter was. Like, this feels like it might be the norm kind of going forward with her. So I'm mostly positive it's just that occasionally we're going to have to deal with discussions of a 14-year-old's boobs. So
I can't wait till Weekly Manga Recap till we're like in our 50s and we're like actively like our eyes are in front of our face being like, it happened again, Nick. Why can't we escape?
Why can't the children just have sweet romances where they never see each other in anything more than turtlenecks?
All right, let's talk about... I like this chapter a lot, by the way. Kana is very cool. Let's talk about Ichi the Witch, Fourth Hunt, the Tali, the capital.
I will try and pick things up a little bit because we did start late. But yeah, Ichi has been taken to the capital of the magical world here. And he looks around, there's just like, all these bustling people at different shops and everything, which makes sense. He's from like a town in the sticks and lived in the wilderness around said town in the sticks. But it's not just that there's a bunch of people in the city. There's all sorts of women just casually demonstrating magic at just even like different shops and stuff. And Deskara says like, yeah, women can't automatically use magic. You need formal training first. And she gives like a breakdown of the power scales and how everything works. And I like how it's like done up in a way that emphasizes how great she is, of course, because it's Deskara. And she says like, so witches are actually at the top, but then below them there's witch cadets, and then there's witch cadets who are like just starting off.
Yes.
And then average women have magical potential. They can only barely use it. They can use magic items, however. Men can't use magic at all, including magic items. So that's just kind of like straightforwardly explaining like, men don't have magic. Yes. Not just like it's rare. They don't, is the perception of it. So Ichi is getting led around and stuff, and they come across that there is a thing selling merchandise about Deskara, and there's this very weird picture that just like looks completely off model for her. And Ichi's like, oh, the cover's really off. And yeah, so no one like recognizes you, Deskara, because you don't look like the cover. And Deskara's just like, well, you can't capture the beauty of the real thing. Immediately, Ichi's like, these are pretty boots, just goes on to the next thing. Big, long thing about these very, 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 very pretty looking pair of boots with high heels.
Oh, they're glorious. I wish I owned a pair of these boots. They don't make these in my size, unfortunately.
And the shopkeeper is like, oh yeah, they give a woman like like the ability to like jump 6 feet in the air on the average woman. And Ichi's like, well, I want to try them. And she's like,
in heels, by the way.
Yeah,
you got to do them in heels, bitch.
Mm-hmm. And the woman's just like, I mean, okay, they'll just be knee highs on you, mister, because you can't use the magic power anyway. There are a couple of people who are like, oh, I actually heard a rumor about a male witch popping up somewhere. And Ichi starts to go, yeah, that's me. And Deskara's like, shut the fuck up! While she's berating him, a letter kind of flips down from the sky, and they spot that there is a witch up in the air who is making some sort of delivery of a bunch of mail on some flying vehicle. And so Ichi's like, oh, she dropped this letter, and she probably didn't notice that she dropped it because there's so many up there. And so he tries to think, it's like, how do I get it back to her? Sees the boots and gets an idea. And immediately afterwards, there's this explosion that occurs behind Deskara, who has moved on, bursts up into the air, and Deskara is like, oh my god, don't tell me that. And of course, Ichi is leaping high buildings in a single bound right now, launches into the air, and does this spectacular series of acrobatics that launch him ricocheting like Spider-Man all over the cityscape, spinning around flagpoles and such. And there's even a cute moment where he passes by a window where some kids are playing. He's like, hey kids, and it's cute. We are introduced formally to the witch who is making the mail delivery, Witch Cadet Kumugi, who is complaining about how heavy her burden is and stuff. And she was just like, oh, master just told me to go and do this stuff. Why do I always have to do these deliveries and everything? And this vehicle's all broken down and needs maintenance. And Ichi was like, excuse me, hello. And finally gets her attention, and she turns around to look at him. And I kid you not, Quinn, this image of Ichi appearing and delivering the letter back to Kumugi, if this series is not successful, I'm going to be so upset now, because this should be an iconic moment that everyone recognizes. I'm not fucking kidding. This is too good. I don't know how to explain to people how much I love this shot of just Ichi with a pair of knee-high, high-heeled boots, upside down, posing with one hand while sticking one hand out to deliver a letter to this completely surprised woman is. I freaking adore this.
Which is why it's a shame I'm using my veto.
No!
Blank!
Quinn, no!
It's Master General. Quinn can't make that call. She's not here. She's dead, if you recall.
Damn it!
For a month. Well, no, that's good. That means she can't use it on you. Spookmaster General didn't win this or something. Whatever I did to earn it.
Komugi, like, faints because, you know, a random person appeared up in the sky. Deskros, fortunately, is there, too. And she, you know, scolds him over everything. He's like, what are you doing? Drawing attention to yourself and everything. God, this sucks so much. I'm going to get in so much trouble if anything goes wrong here. And she even starts arguing with Ororo. But Ichi just kind of like looks down and like looks at how high up in the air they are and at the oceanscape in the distance. And he turns to Deskros and he says, magic is fun. And it's just nice. And then immediately, like, an explosion happens. The engine fully gives out on the vehicle. They crash down, crash through a wall immediately in front of Descaros's superior, who's like, what are you doing? Why did you crash through the Great Gate like this? And Descaros is immediately in like, hello!
Hello! Yeah. Great stuff. I love it so far. Ichi the Witch, really, really fun. Nick, we're going to find out if another new series is going to join us as we talk about the third chapter of Shinobi Undercover.
Chapter 3, Teamwork. That guy that Yotaka took out in the first chapter has been, you know, arrested and captured, and he's like, oh man, I can't believe that there are these public safety guys protecting Aoi Mukai. But we've got some too. You'd best watch yourselves. So yeah, that information got passed on through the interrogation to Yotaka, who is warned, like, yeah, apparently there could be like enemies hiding out anywhere at any time. And so Yotaka's like, you're saying that anyone at any time could start talking to me? I feel that, dude.
If you feel social anxiety, I do feel like this is a character you could relate to.
So Aoi greets Yotaka and is like, hey, some of us are going to go to karaoke on the way home. And Noka's like, yeah, okay. And Aoi's like, yeah, I told them the two of us are going too. And I do love that Yotaka just says, why would you tell them that? And yeah, he ends up kind of like just being forced to go along because, hey, Aoi's going on this thing and he needs to, you know, help out. But while he is going along, the other two ninja that are on assignment are also undercover there. And meanwhile, like, you know, he finds out that Aoi, you know, was like asked to have him along when she was asked to go out to karaoke. And Yotaka's like, she's mocking me here. But we established that Hibari and Umineko are in the group. Umineko talks to Yotaka and like just kind of like starts talking to him in an undercover sense. And they're just like, you know, kind of hanging out and being like really overly friendly and chipper, like, haha, we're teenagers having a good time and stuff. And Yotaka is like, I can't like talk with people. I just can't hold a conversation with anyone. I feel like I'm like the odd one out. It's okay, dude.
Yeah.
A truck passes by, and some dude in a tracksuit is like, all right, we're gonna go and grab this girl. Like that's our job as soon as she splits from the group. As the truck passes by, Yotaka, Hibari, and Umineko all immediately sense something. So they go into karaoke. Almost immediately we see Aoi is like, I gotta go to the bathroom. And Hibari is like, samesies, which is how the kids talk these days.
Yes.
And Umineko sits down next.
I've been informed, actually, Nick, recently that the kids do, in fact, still say coolio and cool beans. Those are both terms that are used. Yeah, no, they're not, Nick. I'm trying to trick you, Nick. If you go to the kids, tell them I'm super cool, homeo, home dog, home slice.
That third one sounds the most like a thing that was a thing at a time. at least.
Oh yeah, I definitely called people home slice in my life.
Okay.
Unironically.
I'm not sure I... Anyway, so... I don't like talking in slang at all anyway. So Yoruka is approached by Umineko, who's like, you sense an enemy, right? And he's just immediately like all business, like, hey, there's an enemy afoot. What's going on here? So he says, hey, I'm going to like not go for a cup. You act like you're going to go and get some towels to clean it up so that you can go and check in on Aoi and get rid of this guy. So he makes the scene and then like turns very obviously to Yoruka, like, come on. And Yoruka's like, I'll go to the front desk and get a towel. He's, by the way, had maracas in his hands for the entire time since they got to karaoke, because which is kind of like, I kind of get it, because like, if I just have these,
yeah, they won't.
No one can make me sing.
Yep, 100%. I've never been to karaoke like this, but that would be my move until I was comfortable with the group.
Of course, Aoi went to the girls' room, so like the thugs are like gathered outside, and they're like, yeah, okay, yeah, so there's another girl who's in there with her. We'll just, take them both with us, and then just get out of here. Hibari emerges from the bathroom alone, takes her glasses off, and goes full like serial killer mode. And she's like, "This is the little girl's room," and she's just like, "Let's throw down," and makes the big fighting stance, and says, "I'm free game, lads," which indicates to me like she may be from the UK somewhere.
Well, to be fair, the guy does say, so she's free game then.
Yeah, but she says, "I'm free game, lads."
Oh yeah, I mean, she might be. She very well might be British for all we know.
Come and try me if you're hard enough.
Yeah, what was her bird? Is it some kind of like iconic English bird, like a eel pie bird or something?
I don't know. Hibari, bird. Hibari is the Japanese name for the Eurasian skylark.
Okay. Anyway. Well, hold on, Nick.
He's having a lock.
I'm gonna start naming some birds from you from the UK. We'll see if any of these come to you. Tit.
Damn it. So Hibari beats up a bunch of the guys just as Yoruka shows up, and it has to be informed by 9. It was like, yeah, so that's how Hibari actually is when she's not undercover. And Hibari's like, yelling at Yoruka. It's like, you want to end up like these guys? Come on, go. And then she hears Aoi being ready to come out of the bathroom. So she's like, okay, let's get these guys out of the way. And just jumps out the window with the 3 dudes that she has beaten up. And then it sounds like she keeps on beating them up as they fall and are on the ground. Yes. So then Yoruka's like, well, I don't know if there's anything else for me to do. Aoi comes out, spots Yoruka has come out, and has still got a bunch of maracas with him. And I was like, it seems like there was a lot of, commotion here. Have you been enjoying yourself? And Yoruka says, I mean, kind of. By the way, why'd you invite me? And Aoi says, well, I don't really know anyone else here, and I figured I'd kind of be lonely if I just came by myself, so I needed you to come with me. And Yoruka says, oh, I thought you just kind of wanted to watch me squirm uncomfortably in a social situation. He says, oh, I wanted to do that too.
Fuck. So... I hate that people are slowly starting to figure out that I'm one of those people you could tease that way. Like, oh, I could just make you uncomfortable extremely easily. I'm like, fuck, don't use this information. Come on. why are you taking this as a note?
Hibari realizes, oh shit, I've only got 3 of the attackers with me. There's a 4th one up there. And so she gets on a radio and is like, Yoruka, we're not in the clear here. And so the last of the kidnappers realized, okay, so that girl who took out my boys is not here. So I gotta get rid of this kid and then get out of here. And so Yoruka realized, oh shit, I'm too close here. I can't fight anyone if we're attacked, so I need backup. And fortunately, Umineko comes out and just distracts Aoi very lightly, just kind of draws her eyes in one direction, and is like, yeah, I'm here to clean myself up. Yoruka has a chance to turn around, kick the dude out the window.
Yeah, Straight up, like, fucking, like, missile drop kicks him straight out the fucking window. It's wild.
And covers up the noise of
roundhouse
by just shaking the maracas really, really, really hard.
It's very funny.
So they're like, "Oh, what happened there?" And Yotaka's like, "Oh, I'm practicing." And Aoi says, "Wow, you're really into this. You can't beat my tambourine skills, though." So weird. And yeah, that's the first time that we actually see the other shinobi work together with Yotaka to accomplish something, which seems like it's going to be more of a thing going forward. So we've got Umineko, who's like really intense and strategic minded, and Hibari, who is just a battle nut, it seems.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about the series, Quinn?
Yeah, I think I'm not going to beat around the bush with this one. If you want it in a recap, sure, but I think our recap's pretty full, and I think this is a series that's not going to be long for the world, unfortunately. I would love it if this series kept going. I think it deserves it probably more than a couple other series that are currently in the magazine. But I just don't know if the series has the juice to get over like that 20 chapter hump or whatever, that 25 chapter hump that like series get canceled at.
I definitely have to say that I am a little bit too in the middle to really feel strongly for this series one way or the other. So I do think that'd probably be a good sign that we should just not include it. It might be a thing where I might follow it as it's kind of going along, and maybe if it picks up and survives the axe after about 18, 20 chapters, maybe we can come back to it. But it's also going to depend on if like there's more meat to discuss as well.
Yeah, I think this chapter was good for getting us like acquainted to the cast, but I definitely am still trying to like suss out exactly what the tone of this series is going to be. It seems like it's going for a little bit battle stuff. So yeah, we shall see. But saying no to that for right now, and then we're moving over to Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi number 14. They did it.
The ferocious beast of Memento Forest. So yeah, of course it's Yusa who caused Mr. Tagata to be transported here away from Sosuke and Kiyoshi, which was with his exorcism kinesis. He's got telekinesis. So that's what happened.
Sure.
And he picks up a tree and just attacks with it. But then just as it's getting started, he spots that there is the beast of Memento Forest is here, this giant fox Memi. And so Yusa's like, all right, well, save Tasaka for later. Beat up that thing, my minions. And immediately they get one-shotted and taken out. We don't even see it happen.
They're just in a tree.
So goes after He's the next, and Tosaka saves his ass, manages to get him out of the way. He suffers an injury as a result of it. You know, there's a gash in his arm, and he's like, hey, get your friends, get out of here. I will handle this. And he, summons a shield to try and block and protect himself. But it immediately breaks. Mimi knocks him on his ass, and he's not looking so good. He's not even able to get to his feet, and he's like, crap, I can't believe I ran into the ferocious beast. But I'm not going to give up for both my best friend and for Hirai and Hitsuki too. And fortunately, Sosuke comes in with the save at that moment as he and Kiyoshi arrive. I like how he declares it as 100-gallon bullet because his weapon's a squirt gun. It's cute.
That's very cool.
And fortunately, Cook, the Exorcist bird, led them here successfully.
Also, Perfect Blue, another movie. Is that not? Is there an anime?
Anyway, so
wait, is that? Hold on, wait. What do I think Perfect Blue is?
I'm gonna. I need to move on. I don't want to belabor this.
Okay, sorry. Carry on, Nick. I'm sorry. I was like, oh no, I didn't say Bible Black, did I?
So, Sosuke is like, hey, let me take this thing out, and reveals that he's got his own crest exorcism, like the tattoos that Kiyoshi has, and he summons a massive, perfect blue Leviathan. huge blast of holy water into Memi, knocks out a huge chunk of its flesh. But Sosuke's like, oh, damn, I put all my power behind that, and the recoil is really bad. Like, his arm is shaking afterwards. And Memi just regenerates the damage and comes charging in towards Sosuke. So he's like, all right, here we go. I'm going to give it all I got this time. But this time, Kiyoshi jumps in and says, like, hey, hang on a second. I got to confirm something. And he calls in a shield to stop Memi's claws, summons like a cube around its like tailed beast bomb, because there's a lot of Kurama to this guy's appearance, to stop it from blowing up. And then he just kind of stares Memi down, dashes in, and glomps its face, and just gives its muzzle a big hug, and pets its hair, and it's like, what's going on? What? Oh, it's not moving. And then Memi like bashes Kiyoshi off, and they're like, oh no, he's in trouble. But then Kiyoshi just goes, Pah! And just exudes dominant personality and commander hockey until Memi backs off and then kneels down and puts his paw in Kiyoshi's hand. And they're like, well, what happened? And Kiyoshi explains, oh, well, when it was charging us before, I didn't sense any bloodlust. And I thought, maybe it just wanted to say hi. And they're like, I don't know if I believe you, because it seems like Memi's just scared of Kiyoshi right now. But Kiyoshi says, hey, we're not your enemy. And Memi flashes back to, of course, Mr. Sasaki, who seemingly did the same thing when he first took the exam. And there is just a big old, like, Memi acting like an oversized dog moment, looks up Kiyoshi's face and stuff. And as a result, they pass the exam, because Memi just, carries them on his back through the forest the rest of the way.
Yeah, and they were led by Bach.
Yes.
He's the real MVP of this.
So then Yusa, remembers that Tosaka's, saved him, and so he's like, hey, I'm not going to thank you for what you did, but good luck in the third phase of the exam. And Tosaka looks at Hirai, at Kiyoshi and Sosuke, and he says, hey, thanks. And they're like, we would have never gotten out of the forest without your help. Cook's the real MVP here. Which is what the audience told us last week. So now they're going to the final phase of their exam here, and that's where we end off the chapter.
Yes. All right, we have I think that's a good chapter. But we have Marriagetoxin to get to.
Chapter 102. So last time we established that Himekawa needed some help because all of her support system is just not available, and so she's gone on Undead and hired, as it turns out, Arashiyama, the hamster user. And so before they get into business, Arashiyama says, hey, just so you know that I'm a fledgling specialist, but I'm no pushover, so I don't want you to hold back. Tell me everything. What's your story? So Himekawa kind of gives her the whole deal about who she is and what she does and stuff off panel, fortunately. And it gets Arashiyama really, really teary-eyed. And she's like, you've got such a big heart. You sacrifice so much. And she grabs her hand and is like, I'm going to call you Kyoko-ne from now on, okay? And yeah, I'll take the job. And Himekawa kind of tries to stay professional for a bit. And she's like, okay, Arashiyama-san. She's like, just call me Kimie. She's like, all right, Kimie-san. So they're close. They're besties now.
Yeah.
They're besties. That's all they are. So then Himekawa gives the explanation of what the job's going to be. It has to do with the treasure hunter, Dangerous Takarazuka, who looks like he belongs in the Seibu Wild Gunmans.
Yes, this looks like Tezuka. This is a guy with a very angular, perfect face. Yes.
But as it turns out, Takarazuka, he's got this, TV show. He runs a museum called the Dangerous Museum, but he's actually also known as the King of Plunder. So he just robs people, takes away their treasures, and then puts them in a museum, which he also is the director of. So he makes a bunch of profit off of it. And the target for their operation is one of the treasures that he took from someone. And we get a flashback of Himekawa meeting this woman who is like on her deathbed, and she lost this golden bust of her husband. It's just a guy with a crew cut, but it's a gold bust. So just go with it. Just go with it. So, but she says, like, if I could just see that one more time, I would have no regrets. So Himekawa was determined to do this for this poor woman as her last wish. And she says, like, look, I started to, scope out this museum, but it's way, way, way more secure than I thought it was, and I couldn't even get a hold of the blueprint for this place. So she says, look, we'll figure out more day after tomorrow. So I'll do my best to try and get the blueprints by then. And Arashiyama starts to get up, and she snags her skirt on the leg of her chair as she's getting up, and she starts to fall like at the worst possible angle.
Yeah.
Like she is going to go teeth first into the floor until Himekawa catches her, like full princess style, catches her off the ground.
There was a moment where it's like I forgot that like she is like a thief, so she is like, this is like normally the action pose they would have saved for the guy who's like super fast or something like that. I was like, oh right, like she's actually pretty fast and strong herself. Got it, right.
And so they have a moment afterwards where Himekawa is like got her in her arms, and she says, "Be more careful, will ya?" And Arashiyama is fully like blushing over this, and then she gives her a big hug afterwards, like "Thank you." And
so cute. Oh wait,
she
is
heads
the doll
off.
there?
The doll is there because immediately afterwards, yeah, it's just right there by the table. And Himekawa says to herself as Arashiyama leaves, like, if I had a younger sister, is this what it would feel like? Come on. So she goes home, and then she's like, what do I do? Because I don't have, a blueprint, so what do I do with this strategy? And what do you do, Quinn, when you just made a new bestie who like you feel is like your older sister? You show up in full.
Well, I generally push somebody away as quickly as possible because I assume my friendship is a burden to them.
You show up in full feathered samba.
Oh, yeah, that's the second option. Yeah, I show up as though it's Mardi Gras.
Just makeup, wings, feathers, and very little clothing. And Arashiyama says, you looked real distressed, so I wanted to cheer you up, Kyoko-ne. Come on, guys.
Come on. You're saying like, come on, guys. I'm saying like, come on, guys.
So it turns out that Arashiyama has a surprise. She's got the blueprints. She went to the facility the day before with her hamster pals and made a blueprint by just having her hamsters like take freaking measuring tape and measure all the ducts and stuff. And so Arashiyama and Himekawa was like, wow, she's actually a really capable specialist. Awesome. But it's going to be really dangerous to get to where the statue's being kept. There's guards there 24/7, heavy security. And then, Arashiyama's like, okay, this is going to be like really tough. So let's get set. But then she gets a notification on her phone as she's been sent the 10,000 yen payment. And she's like, we haven't even started the operation yet. Why are you paying me? And Himekawa says, look, I've got the blueprint now. I'm good to go. I'll take on the rest of this operation on my own. And she's looking all cool when she says it. And Arashiyama says, but that's crazy. And Himekawa says, like, look, I just paid you the last of my money. And this is going to require me to pay you more if you come in with me on this. But privately, she's also thinking, like, this girl's really nice. She's really cheerful. She's too good to work with the likes of me. I can't let such a nice young lady face this kind of danger. And of course, Arashiyama gets in her face and says, don't you hold back on me. And she's towering over Himekawa, which is really nice. I really like that the effectiveness of like, she's kind of been like, oh, you're my big sister and stuff, and kind of been going up to her level. And now she's towering over her in this moment. And she says, "You're in a tight spot right now, I can tell. And I've been through something similar recently. Someone tried to kill me. I almost died, but someone risked his life to save me. And he looked so cool back then. Like beast level awesome. And I'm nowhere near that level, but I still want to try to get even just a step closer to him." And Himekawa was taken aback by this. And then she's like, "Huh, kind of reminds me of Garo." They're both talking about the same guy. So Himekawa's like, "All right, yeah, sure, let's keep on working together. I mean, I'm gonna have to like pay you in installments if that's cool." And she's like, "Yeah, okay, sure." But yeah, that's this.
Yeah, it's cute, and I don't know if the impression we're supposed to be getting from this is we might start seeing these two get paired together. Like this is almost like an opportunity to pair the girls together and like make sure they're all happy.
What an interesting resolution to things that would be.
Yeah, because they're all like...
Just pair up all 6 of Garo's girlfriends, and then he ends up with Kinosaki or something.
Yes,
like that.
Exactly. Because you're looking at it and you're like, well, they're both kind of really learning to appreciate one another because they're both changed by Garo. Like their influence of each other is changing them essentially, and like it's almost a way to like not have your cake and eat it too. Garo will be with someone else. But, like, as a way to, like, not leave the audience unhappy when he picks just one of these girls and not the others, like, it seems like a solution to me. If anything,
what an outstanding way of resolving only one girl can win syndrome.
Yes.
How much better would We Never Learn have been if it just, instead of like, oh, but Yuiga just gets with one of them and it's up to you to decide which one. It's like, no, all the girls are just like, they just like all fine. Well, no, that wouldn't have worked because Kirisu would have had to, never mind. So, but I literally, I got about halfway through reading this chapter and I was like, this can't be unintentional. Like there is no way that you have like one girl princess carry another to save her, and then to thank her afterwards, she shows up literally wearing like underwear.
Oh yeah, that's look, I know some queer girls who will do this, so maybe that is what they're going for. So maybe that's what we're saying. Like these are lesbians; they will be moving in very soon, which is going to be the case. I think
they'll be roommates.
Yeah, they're not going to be roommates. They're going to be fucking. Is what they're going to be doing. I was trying to read the top-bottom energy in this chapter, and it fucking flip-flopped. It was wrestling back and forth, and I was suddenly like, oh, we got a dynamic going on here. There's chemistry. All right.
Fortunately, they were both switches, yeah.
I didn't want to say it, but I'm glad you did.
Also, I do want to point out, I did not realize before that Himekawa has, like, shark fang earrings. Those are so good.
Oh, yeah.
That's it for that, for Marriagetoxin. It's very good. New Exorcist, Chapter 68. The Vice Captain of the First Branch. Gakuro is going to be doing training with the Vice Captain of the First Branch, who has just asked him, let me ask you something. Do you have a lover? And Gakuro looks at him and I guess just doesn't know anything to say beyond the truth, which is, no, I don't. And so, have you ever confessed your love to anyone? And so Gakuro starts to go, why is he asking me that? And then he says, no, I haven't. And the guy's like, you fail, go home.
You suck.
You suck. And so Gakuro's like, what does this have to do with it? The process from confessing love to acquiring a lover is packed with elements that are vital to serving as a captain.
He's
education.
He's like, you have so little game that I can tell that you're a bad captain as a result of it. Like, I can tell you have so little fucking charisma, my dude, that I just know you suck shit in battle, too.
Just tears into him. He says, you fool, you utterly abysmal ignoramus, which sounds so much more insulting than you total fuckboy. Like,
yeah,
just...
I love it. He's just dressing this fucking nerd down, and Gakuro is just taking it shot after shot. He's just dumbfounded, like, oh, yeah, I guess I am a fucking ignoramus fucking dickhead.
he tells Gakuro, "You're not worth trusting with my back." As in, like, you suck so much as a person, I can't trust you to look after my safety if we're in a bad situation. So Gakuro starts to go, "That could be true. Actually, I'm pretty sure it is." So he's thinking to himself, "He's right. I have to earn his trust. So I'll acknowledge what a piece of shit."
There's a moment where I was like, yes, please do this. We don't get to it because Nue unfortunately ruins things that are fun. She just knows. She's like, I know you're gonna fuck up this conversation. Like the twist of the series better be she's done a previous loop of this shit or something. Like, I don't know how she just always knows these things, but she's like, you're not going to win his heart over this way. You do it this way. The answer from it is still kind of like, look, not for nothing, Gakuro, but you suck shit and you need to admit it, but don't say that you suck shit.
Don't just dress yourself down while doing this. Like, because you could have a character who is not Gakuro do that, who could acknowledge their shortcomings and say, but even so, I need you with me on this or something. And Gakuro would not be able to take those two steps and put them together because he's too bad at this.
Yes.
Nue establishes that the vice captain has an ability that can just protect people from the cataclysmic, immediately death-creating effects of being near Hyo. He can just do it.
Yes.
I don't know why, and I don't know how she knows that, but she does.
I mean, she's met the group at this point, and the reason I think he is supposed to be the first division captain is because this is like a highly respected position within the Exorcist world or whatever they call themselves. Like, it specifically is being bred to this point. And it does make sense why somebody whose entire existence is contingent upon passing this technique down in a generation is particularly interested in love. I think that's, maybe something very significant for him and his family to be like, you had to fight because you got to continue this fucking bloodline.
Yeah, so Nue straight up tells Gakuro in front of Vice Captain Rito all these things that he can do. He is like the pilot of an enormous ship. The lives of the residents will be in his hands. Based on that knowledge, are you sure that you should just be telling him how much you suck? And so Gakuro thinks to himself, in order to win Rito's trust, I was planning to lay myself bare. And we get a representation of Gakuro's inner self, which is just a mass of pathetic anxiety and self-doubt.
And
he says, my pathetic, unreliable self.
That little creature, that is the voice we're doing. That's that voice.
I've been on target for 67 weeks, y'all. So Gakuro thinks to himself, I'm an idiot. Courage that cheap won't be enough. Even if I have to bluff, I need to show him I'm worth trusting. I need to show him I'm worth trusting by lying.
By being deceitful.
And then he's like, but I've got nothing.
Oh, I suck. I'm an enormous loser, dork. Fucking dickbag! I've never done a cool thing in my life.
And so he's just like, I got nothing. I can't even lie about it. And so Rito like just looks at this pathetic boy,
so
and it's just
funny.
Like,
he's like,
let me move the goalposts up ahead for this stupid boy.
It's very funny because I think the impression is supposed to be like Gakuro came out of this a little bit ahead, but it's like, no, this dude was like, I guess I can't make my big statement because you're actually so much of a virgin wiener.
It turns out that
you can't
my way of like, go ahead.
Yeah, like you can't even comprehend quite yet what it would be like to have a confessed feelings for another person.
This is like, so when I liked Jujutsu Kaisen, a big reason was because I reached a point where Todo showed up, and he has that absurd eccentric attitude, and the first thing he asks men that he meets is, what kind of girls do you like? And if they don't have the nuts to say what kind of women they're into, then he beats the shit out of them. And Yuji happens to have like the same general kind of physical women that he likes, and so he declares Yuji his best friend. Tall women with big butts.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it's like if you had that kind of character. Okay, Quinn. It's like if you had that kind of character, and then they're like, "What kind of women do you like?" And they're like, "I don't know." They're like, "Okay, I mean, like, if you ever had a crush on anyone, this is my thing. I'm working with me here." And so it's like,
help
it
me
immediately destroys the character if you don't have them have the conviction to follow through on it.
I was like, this dude should absolutely be like, all right, so I am going to leave because you do suck and you're pathetic and not worth risking my life for.
Then you could have a moment where Gakuro like finds a way to like discover something about himself, and then he approaches the guy and convinces him. This is how you do shonen. Like, you have trials come in that the hero has to work to overcome, as opposed to the trial comes in and the hero's like, well, I can't do it. And the trial's like, okay, here, we'll put the bar a little lower for you so you can do your little baby thing.
Yeah. I'm gonna put the gaps of this ledge you were supposed to jump a little closer together, because apparently you couldn't get there even with a running start.
God. So Nue's like, I thought he was too stiff to compromise like this. Like, God damn it. So Gakuro thinks about like all the girls in his life,
including, by the way,
Shitatsu!
His sister is in this shot.
Shitatsu confirmed to be part of the harem, I guess.
She is one of the smaller ones, but she is not on there.
And she's not one of the smallest ones. I don't. So anyway, so Gakuro's like, I don't have the right to declare that they're just my love interests. But wait, hiding my heart because they're my companions would be way too insincere. This guy can't even second guess himself without second guessing himself. So he says, I have to give him an answer. I need to put my feelings out there. I'll drag them from the depths of my heart, the very deepest. Oh. And he wakes up after having fucking fainted from this.
Ha! Pretty funny joke there, Nick. Hey guys, it's Quinn. If you're listening to this right now, you're probably curious why the cadence of the show has spontaneously and irrevocably changed. That's because during recording of this episode of Weekly Manga Recap, we had a weird technical issue. I don't quite understand it. Nick couldn't hear me, but I could hear him, and so could the audience, and we couldn't figure it out. And we were already running late, and we were at, like, the last 10 minutes of the show, so we ended up I kind of did like a very quick, abrupt ending and then went back from there. There's absolutely no way for Nick and I to have any kind of like rapport at that point, because he just couldn't understand me outside of like one-word sentences every so often. So, unfortunately, that's the end of our new Exorcist recap for that week. And then we didn't even really get to talk about Akane-banashi, so I'm going to get to do it very, very quickly. This is story 128, Time at Last. And look, Nick usually recaps this series. I don't remember many of these characters' names, so I'm not going to try to get into the weeds of remembering everyone's names. The whole point of this is that we've gone into this further exploration rather of this Shiguma storyline. And we are just getting kind of more teases about it. A lot of the chapter focuses on a show who is kind of like reliving some flashbacks and also kind of contemplating what essentially Akane's big performance here means. There's a lot of excitement. We also get to see her rivals react to it. And there's a lot of talk about like, oh, well, now that she's the critical darling, of course she's going to get a little bit more like press than we do, so we have to keep working to beat her essentially, so that they convicted, they have their conviction of that. I think it's like Rokuro and someone else. It's the two older rivals for Akane are basically both discussing Shiguma to a certain extent. There is this very interesting sort of conversation where I don't know how to describe it other than very similar to the way there was a chapter recently at the end of One Piece where they were like, hey, here are all the players. This feels like Akane-banashi's version of that moment where it sort of indicates like, oh, there's other characters who are introduced or who are interested in Shiguma's art, especially there seems to be some intrigue as well from like the four, or I guess, yeah, four members who were around it originally, like Shiguma and Isho and Rara? No, that doesn't sound right. This is why I said not to do names. Anyway, I really, really like this chapter. I think a lot of people would be like, oh, it's just a transitional chapter. But for me, this was like, I honestly think this might have been better. Like, I think I enjoyed this more than like anything Akane-banashi has done maybe this year. I really, really enjoyed this. I loved how it, like, Shiguma's art is really feeling like mythological in this world. And in a story that needs like a narrative hook to keep readers along, besides like Akane gets better at Rakugo, the idea that there is this sort of secret story or art that is kind of being like gate kept in a certain way by an older generation because it seems to connect to a lot of trauma they all feel, but a lot of these young sort of, you know, burgeoning Rakugoka are in chase of it. I don't know. That just is an exciting hook to me. Like, we have now reached the point where it's not really about getting justice for Akane's dad anymore. He's gotten to see her perform. He's kind of gotten to have his closure with Rakugo as, you know, a figure. You know, I don't think we could really hang our hats on that as much. So I like the idea of expanding it. Like, okay, there's also this to kind of look forward to. There's something down this line. I probably am hyperbolic by saying this like one of my favorite chapters of Akane-banashi this year, but I just really like this. As I said, I like mythology in these sorts of stories. I think it's just good in shonen manga, and I greatly enjoyed this chapter. I don't know necessarily how Nick felt. Maybe we'll find out next week. But it is worth noting that it was my favorite chapter of the week. And Rito, the new jerk guy from New Exorcist, who spent the whole chapter just dunking all over Gakuro, that was my favorite character of the week. I honestly, I thought it was like a cool introduction. I am flagrantly on record at this point in saying I believe media needs more haters in it. And if this dude is just a certified Gakuro hater, I'm all for it. Especially because that kid kind of deserves to have a hater. Like, you know, come on. I don't feel like I need to justify myself. The audience, by the way, agreed with Nick. Ichi the Witch, chapter of the week, and Kyo from Blue Box as character of the week. And that was it for Weekly Manga Recap. So I'm sorry about this weird little extra addendum at the end of the episode. It's strange for you as it is for me. But we wanted to put this here because otherwise the episode ends kind of rather awkwardly. So gave you a little something there. Hopefully all the tech issues should be fixed by next week. But, you know, nothing's ever fully in our control, I guess. It is worth noting that you can always stay tuned for updates if you go and join the WMR Discord, which we have a ton of fun in. Have lots of very engaging conversations, not just about manga, obviously a lot about manga. I think we have like 4 different manga related channels to discuss things in. But we also have like pretty interesting conversations about games and movies, and there's people doing weight loss journeys in there, and there's, you know, Pokemon threads, and just a lot of really, really cool stuff. There's a channel for VTubers. If you're one of those freaks who loves VTubers, I say freaks, parentheses, affectionate, to be clear. But if you're one of those little disgusting freaks who is super into VTubers, there's a spot for you too. So go check that out. Again, you can always check out our podcasts. They're available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. Ninja has been an enormous help recently in helping me get content out onto YouTube recently. Once again, for people who maybe aren't aware, like, caring for my dad has been sort of a full-time endeavor for me recently, and like a lot of stuff has gotten pushed to the wayside in my personal life. So hopefully uploads now will start to get a little smoother as that that responsibility has lessened a little bit on my end. I'm he's now back in Culpeper for a small period of time. So we'll gauge and see, but hopefully I'll be able to have a more regular upload. But again, huge thanks to Ninja X3i, who helps put this all together, to Milo Jack Stillitz and Wensleydale Cheddar for the opening animation that you see before any of these episodes if you watch it on YouTube. And also, again, to Ninja for keeping the Google Doc together, which hopefully can be used to track all sorts of things. So I'm super looking forward to next week when hopefully we can get into more Spookmaster General stuff and all that sort of thing. But for right now, thank you everybody for listening. I hope you all here had a fantastic evening, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Weekly Manga Recap. I almost said Transmission Awesome. I don't know how to feel about that. If you don't know me from the way back, you won't even understand the context of that. But I'm not happy that those wires almost crossed in my brain. Anyway, guys, have a good day.